Hey there and welcome. Let me clear my throat as we get started here today. Let me go ahead and pull my screen up. Hang on one second. Oh, there we go. Maybe a little bit larger. Well, welcome. Today we're going to talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is incredibly important to how you present yourself. Now, just to recap, we started with supercharging your job search on May 4th. May 6th, we did resume renovation. Today, we're doing LinkedIn. When we do Thursday's lecture this week, that's really the part 2 to my LinkedIn. Once you have a really great LinkedIn profile, now what? What do you do to make it effective as a marketing tool? How do you really utilize it? So that will be Thursday in depth. And then coming up next Tuesday at 5 o'clock is my interview intervention lecture. And of course, all those techniques for video interviewing and everything else that has become so important in this pandemic world. Building a professional network with LinkedIn, how to use it for your job search. We're going to talk about all that today. You are this product. That's where we have to start. That's really what we have to think about. You're this product that has to be positioned, marketed, put up on the shelf space. People have to see it, maybe under certain lighting, all of that becomes very, very important. This is about moving your brand into the digital world and how we're going to accomplish that. So yes, primarily we are talking about LinkedIn, and this is the LinkedIn lecture. But of course, we're going to have to talk about Twitter. We're going to maybe even have to talk about Instagram, maybe even some other platforms as well, because it all is part of how you represent yourself and how your brand comes to the forefront. So why does social media matter? I mean, I thought we're in this digital world now, where everything just happens by osmosis. Well, a little bit, but I think you've been probably clicking and sending off a lot of resumes and not hearing back because we're counting on that applicant tracking system to somehow tag us, track us down, introduce us. Small changes change perception. That's why social media matters to us. That's why we can lift our brand with the right social media use. Also, social media use, as I'll show you just in a couple moments, can answer other questions they will have about us because the decision isn't simply about your qualifications. Let's be really clear. There's only 2 reasons you get hired, just 2 of them, assuming we're capable and qualified. By the way, not going to hire you because you're capable and qualified. Don't mishear that. Would not hire a single person that was not capable or qualified. What it comes down to is, how are you interesting? Why are you different? What else do you bring to the table? Because if I hire you, I'm going to have to spend my waking life with you, more time with you than my loved ones. That's why all of this other stuff is so important. 2 reasons we're going to hire you. Number 1, above everything else, is chemistry. Number 2, above everything else other than chemistry, is confidence in you. And that's before your credentialing, your background, who you've worked for, the work product itself. This is all assuming that you are capable and qualified. Other reasons to be on social media: it's where all the people are. It's where decision makers are. It's where connections are. If we can get people to start talking about us, boy, that's really exciting as well. Look at the second from the bottom here. It's proper use of social media is how you stay on the top of people's minds while you seemingly have no real contact with them. So it's how you get on the short list for interview up the food chain of your own company for a job you've never applied for. It's how you get on the short list for an interview at the competitor company for some job you never applied for, because they're already aware of you and they're reaching out to you. By the way, in-depth discussion on Thursday of how we put together a proper social media campaign, essentially to manage and market our brilliance in our career. And that's whether we're just lifting our brand where we're currently working or whether we're looking for that new opportunity. Let me get a little sip here. So back to what I mentioned. How are you interesting? What makes you tick? What are you all about? Well, what's on screen right now is my Instagram. If you'd like to see it a little closer, you can just go to my Self-Recruiter website. I think Instagram is so important. It's part of my drop-down menus. You can drop down and see all the Instagram. Now, as you'll also notice here, there's absolutely nothing here about what I do professionally. Why is this here, John? Why are we looking at this? Well, a couple different reasons. One of them is that hiring a career coach or someone to work with you on your resume or your LinkedIn profile, it's really very similar to getting hired at a company. Not only do you want the person to be capable, qualified, and really the right one, you also want to get them. Who are they? What are they all about? How will we work together? So really, it's a peek behind the scenes as to who I am and the rest of it. I'll come back to that a little bit later and show you a little bit more. But think about how you're going to push and shape perception, how you're going to show a different aspect of yourself simply beyond the qualifications piece. So all those things together, you're more dazzling than the next individual. By the way, that does not mean we're going to allow our LinkedIn to become a Facebook page. No, that's that's not what we mean here. But we do have to think about how we shift perception of us. And it's really with small, little, tiny changes. Now, I'm going to give you a lot of direction today, a lot of things that I think you should do. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. I live at Grand Street, FDR, which means in a normal world, I get into Chinatown pretty early in the morning sometimes. Now, if you've not been to Chinatown at 8 o'clock in the morning, oh my gosh, do I highly recommend it for you. I'm a normal person. I'm walking down the street, a million things going through my head. Lead, follow, get out of the way. I got to get to my destination. I look up and boy, first thing I saw was not this, but I saw this giant hog walking down the street on top of someone's shoulder. I'm like, wow, look at that. Don't know if you've seen one of those things in real life, but my gosh, are they huge, massive, a lot of bacon on that thing? Absolutely. My first thought is, why isn't this guy toppling over? But, he was a pretty stout guy. And then, all right, that answered that question. And then this is on his shirt. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. Oh, that hog caught the attention. Absolutely. Boy, this has resonated forever. You're going to have to put down the mobile device, put down that tablet, whatever it is you have in your hand. You're going to have to get out of that back seat and in behind the wheel, or you're not likely to get to the destination that you're thinking about. You need to take control of the discussion of you, the perception of you. Now, I'm a big believer we have to do that across all of our media. That means, yes, our resume, of course, our LinkedIn, which we're talking about today. I hope the cover letter shores up and matches that same story. Really, anything about you has to be cohesive and make sense. This is how you begin to influence other people. Information is the new currency. The more information that you have access to, really, the more likely you are to be able to leverage it to your benefit. So there's two ways we think about LinkedIn. Thursday is going to be about seeding information to LinkedIn, seeding small little bits of information across social media with LinkedIn to change perception of us. Today, what I'm mostly going to talk about is building out the right profile, which begins that right content for you. But also we're going to talk about how you extract information from LinkedIn to make your job search easier. So you really have to think in both directions. But today we're going to talk about the extraction piece primarily. And of course, how to build out that profile so it's much more. I think the right profile is a three-dimensional sales brochure, all about you, naturally driving the reader to one conclusion. My gosh, if I work with that person, hire that person, best business decision I'll make today, for sure. In case you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. A little more about my background. You should understand everybody's background that's teaching you. 7 or 8 years in outside recruitment. That's a typical headhunter on a desk. Have to go into the competitor company, lure out that person, shepherd them through the whole process. It's really like being a glorified dating guru, millionaire matchmaker. Maybe I should have gone that route. Well, then I spent 3.5 years of that entire time as the national trainer. We had 100 offices in our system, as each office would hire people that would potentially become the recruiters. They'd come into my 90-day program to teach them how hiring really works, which is not how people think it works. Otherwise, we wouldn't really be tuning into this today. Of course, VP over all 100 offices before heading out to do what I do now. For the last 10 years, I work one-on-one with clients. I help them elevate their brand across the resume, LinkedIn profile, their communications as well. And I give lots of talks for the New York Public Library's Job Search Central, New York State Department of Labor, several different locations, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, Harvard Business School Club of New York City, CUNY, on and on and on. A little bit of my background. One other piece of my background before any of what you just heard, I also ran a pre-press service bureau, which means I really do understand line, type, spacing, and how all of that affects both physical media like a resume or maybe digital media like your LinkedIn profile. My book, I won't spend too much time on that. You can look it up yourself over my website, selfrecruiter.com, and lots of good things there that will help you. I want you to think about utilizing every resource available. Now, if you'd like a different take on today's lecture, you can see another type of this type of lecture where you can see myself, the slides, see me big, the slides big. And that version of the LinkedIn lecture is right on my website, halfway down the page. You can click in, watch the whole thing, really use it as a nice start and stop tutorial as you work on your LinkedIn profile itself. Over on my LinkedIn, click on articles, get to a few articles that'll help you, how to avoid the biggest mistake in job search, or how your resume doesn't become resume roadkill, or how to supercharge your job search. But again, don't let somebody else think for yourself, absorb all of this information, and then you have to chart your course based on what aligns with your values. LinkedIn, de facto social networking website for our work life. Just like Facebook, except this one's for career. Facebook, I don't really know, a little bit. LinkedIn's very, very important. So LinkedIn and Facebook are very similar. They both have profiles. They both have groups. They both have lots of shared content. Below every piece of shared content is like, comment, share, message. Identical, really. Probably suing the pants off each other behind the scenes, but they're very different. You know, LinkedIn to me is where you hang your professional shingle out for the world to see. It's your cultivated, curated garden of your story where you quite literally control every single word of your story. And that's why it also needs to be public. It's like a public park. Anyone can come and visit it at any time and hopefully become enthralled in your background. Now, LinkedIn's a few other things as well. It's this communications, research, marketing, advertising platform. All right. Business people would think of LinkedIn this way, of course. But you have to think of LinkedIn this way. You have a career brand to manage forevermore. Hope it's not a surprise to you, but you're not going to have one more job. You're going to have one more job, and after that, one more job, and after that, one more job. That's the world we live in today. The sooner you begin to handle and control your career branding, the easier each one of these transitions gets. Let me have a little sip. So let's begin to think about how we as an individual marketing our career brand, managing our career brand, are going to utilize some of these aspects over on LinkedIn. Now, here's my numbers from earlier in the month, 11,836 direct connections. 3 levels out, that's a pool of better than 21 million people. If that's not clear, let me be clear. I can see every stitch of background for 21 million people. How could I utilize that in all the best ways? My gosh, anybody have an interview coming up? Anybody? I hope so. Let's say your interview's next Tuesday. Great, congratulations, by the way. Those are always good to have. Do you know who you're going to meet with? Oh, yeah, they sent me some names. They sent you some names? Do you know everyone you're going to meet with? Email them. I just emailed them this morning. Email them again. It's worth it. Dear Jack, looking forward to meeting with you next Tuesday. In addition to yourself, can you let me know who I'm likely, very important word, to meet with so I can fully prepare for the meeting? And they will share with you. Now, if you forgot to include that word likely, they're probably going to go, oh, I'm not really sure. And then you didn't get very far because you didn't think of how they were going to stop you or trap you or not be able to give you the information. Include the word likely, they're going to go, oh, I'm not really sure, but, Jane and John over here are going to participate, and probably 1 or 2 of your peers. Okay, great. I got 2 more names and a reference to maybe up to 2 of my peers. I can look on LinkedIn the way I'll show you a little bit later in today's broadcast. I can look right there and suddenly understand I have 6 peers. Now I'm going to have to plan on how I'm going to build chemistry with all 6 people that are my peers because I don't know which 1 or 2 I might meet. So much information that we could extract and use on LinkedIn. If your LinkedIn network was large enough, mine's very, very large. If your LinkedIn network was large enough, do you realize you could go in and poll every single individual that's ever held that job before? And how do they talk about that job? If we were really thinking out of the box, I can go right into the direct competitor companies. Pull the person doing that same job anywhere in the country. It's for research. What does that part matter? And suddenly, wow, I don't really even care if the work is done differently at the competitor. Oh, you think you're right for this job? Combined with both of those tellings of the story, you'd be transformed just in how you're going to hold that conversation together. So this visual we're looking at here is an interesting challenge, because our desire as a job seeker is, oh, I just want to be perfect. I want to be perfect. I want to be perfect. Perfect? What? What does that mean? Cookie cutter, interchangeable, absolutely mold perfect? Well, you know what? If I'll take number 3 here, and I'm going to pay that number 3 less. I mean, they're all the same, right? I'm going to pay number 3 less. Oh, number 3 doesn't want less? I'll take number 2. I'll take number 5. None of it matters. I'll take any one of them. They're interchangeable. If I pick one of those people, I am paying less. So you, in your challenge, both resume and LinkedIn, you have to not only be capable, qualified, interchangeable, but somehow exceptional, different, out of line with the rest. That's how you get more responsibility, or a different responsibility, and certainly a better compensation package. This requires a paradigm shift in storytelling. Also going to require a paradigm shift in your approach to what you share. I know that part is scary. Let's look at the network here on the back end here. What you're looking here is at a 3-level network on LinkedIn. Now, they used to talk about this an awful lot. They don't talk about it very much anymore because it's not the angle they're selling. But essentially, if here I am, happy guy in the corner, connected to another happy person. Great, that's my connection. But no matter what my connections do to their settings, every single person behind them, all of their connections are instantly in my pool. Not my connections, but they're in my pool. Different concept, just like a swimming pool. They're in the pool. And no matter what those folks do to their settings, every single one of their connections are also in John's pool. Still not my connections, but they're in my pool. Anybody that is in my pool, I can see every stitch of information on them. So let's begin to think about how all this connection begins to work, and how all of it is really an influence trail. It's our job, which we're going to talk about next Tuesday at 5 p.m. It's our job to teach them how to select us. Yes, they are there to interview us, and they do want to hire, but really beyond maybe the right title, maybe an idea of what they'd like to pay, they really don't know what they want to hire until they kick those tires, until they take it out for a drive, till they get a feel of how does this handle, what are we going to get from this individual. They know it when they see it. That's why it's your job to teach them that you're the very, very best individual. Lots of discussion next Tuesday, 5 o'clock for that. Now, let's go over a little bit of personal branding. We're going to mention resume because obviously these two marketing documents between resume and LinkedIn are related. In my view, the resume is about catching or piquing interest. Typically the first point of awareness about you. Not always, could have been LinkedIn, but most times it's the resume that catches their attention first. In function, I think LinkedIn is where you close the deal as the very, very best individual. You showcase more of your background. Another way to think about both of these is the essence and value of your career on a single page. That's the resume, in my view. Everything I'm teaching you today is my opinion. You should take it with a grain of salt. And of course, LinkedIn has to become the polar opposite to the resume. If I'm going to do a single sheet telling of why I'm so dazzling on the resume, and by the way, every single background, even 30-year background that's CEO, CFO, and COO, all fits on a single page. You just need to understand how to edit content. Let your brands carry the day. Let your titling carry some of the day. And just enough morsel of accomplishment to dazzle. Have to speak with that person, can't resist, have to know more. The goal of your resume, by the way, is not to tell them everything. It's to tell them just enough to get them excited. Polar opposite of that is all that extra content that doesn't fit on the resume. That's still the good stuff. Still the good stuff comes back to life on the LinkedIn side into this more three-dimensional sales brochure all about you. Get them to fall in love with your skill set. Help them understand why you are the very best business decision that they'll make today. Now, I just want to point this part out, even though it's the LinkedIn lecture. In terms of resume, top of the resume contact line, It's a single line in my view. LinkedIn profile on the left, there's that link. Far right is the cell phone, set up like that on purpose. Because if they're holding the resume, they should already be convinced. Just pick up the phone and call me. Easiest to get to on the right. Not quite convinced, click on the LinkedIn profile, and suddenly they're on your three-dimensional sales brochure where you can close the deal with you as the very best. So what is your story? That's a tough word, because we hear story and we think something's made up. No, I simply mean that I can tell you the same truthful story in a very dull way, or I could tell you that same truthful story in a very interesting way with lots of my opinion mixed in. And I can tell it with visual language so that you're imagining the story as I tell it. So when we think about our story, yeah, the capable and qualified has to be an element of that, but really it's a lot more of the interesting and what makes us tick and all of those things. Biggest concern today, of course, that we have to deal with is the fact that it's a pandemic world, and that means there's a lot of remote working, and a lot of people maybe didn't work remotely previously. Haven't done it. Okay. You see what's on screen here. I don't have to read it all. Maybe you've done some other aspects of your job where you interacted with people remotely. Well, I was still at my office, but those people were remote. Therefore, you were doing remote work with them, even though you were in your office. It's about how you tell that story. Or maybe you've spoken. Maybe you've spoken to conferences, or you do conference calls or webinars or all of those kinds of things. It's another way to angle the story so that people feel confident that you can do something remotely. Now, before I drill down into all of the LinkedIn, I do want to frame what I think job search is. What I think job search is not is sitting on the internet looking for job postings. To me, that's pure tragedy, absolutely tragedy. You're wasting 50% of your entire time available, and your time available is the only resource you have as a job seeker. So really, you're wasting half your time, and the worst part is you don't know which half you're wasting. So I think, and in case you'd like to know why that is, that comes out of the fact of how these job postings are sold. How they're sold, and I used to do all the national contracts for all 100 offices. Anybody of any size only buys their job postings one time per year. One time. It's the only way you ever get a good deal. I look ahead to the next year. How many do I think I could use? Take those numbers to my sales rep, do a little horse trading and back and forth tug of war, and then sign that contract. And those become use them or lose them in 12 months. No idea 6 months or up to a year ago what they were hiring today. And very quickly, that process ends up with about 50% of all job postings being, in my view, complete nonsense, not really representing something they're ready to hire today. Tons and tons of endless window shopping, which is why you see jobs go up. Oh, it was up in February. Oh, then it went down. I missed my window. Oh, somebody must have got hired. It's back up in March. Then it's back up in April. What's going on? They're filling in their job postings. I think you reverse the entire process. Instead of sitting on the internet wasting our time, that, by the way, that's only one of 15 different ways of finding your job. Watch the Supercharging Your Job Search lecture. That'll be an eye-opener. I think you reverse the whole process. Let's start with a list of companies. Profit or nonprofit doesn't really matter. They're all really the same. You don't think they are, but they're really the same. Select those organizations or companies. Start with the right number of companies. Stack rank those companies so they're most valuable to you on top. Don't invest your time going after the companies you have the least amount of interest in first. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Devise the steps needed. Oh, but John's saying is not possible. But if it was, okay. Well, how do I align the sun, the moon, the stars working backward to figure out the steps? Devise the steps needed. Not brain surgery there. Discover the decision makers. Well, I'll show you that right in this video. That's not a mystery. I'll show exactly how to search and find anybody you'd like. Decision makers. Overcome the objections. Well, wait a minute. What's their title? Decision makers. Their job is to object to you. Why do you get upset when they object to you? You know, someone, I'm in an interview, someone objects to me. I'm like, because I understand what's going on. They would not have wasted oxygen even in the discussion if they didn't think, oh, yeah, maybe. But I'm going to have to ask John this or this. I'm going to have to challenge him. I'm going to have to object to him. Well, John, you've never worked in this industry. You know I haven't. Just like it's a gift from up above, by the way. If I have not worked in the industry, I cannot fudge that. If I'm going from profit to nonprofit or nonprofit to profit, and I haven't done the other, you haven't done it. You can't pretend you did. So I might as well agree with them. This is an agree but disagree technique. I agree with them as if it's a special gift, no burden. It's a special gift. And then I completely disagree next with what I say, persuading them that that's not the real value. If they say, you've never worked in this industry, I haven't. But of course, Jack, Jim, or Jill, I'm sure you'll meet lots of those folks and the other candidates. Everybody else is always a candidate. A little bit of a hard hit on that. It's like cat hair in your mouth. Down a dozen, interchangeable. And you're always an individual. What I bring to the table is something very, very different. And the perspective I bring from outside is what's going to make me most valuable in this role. And then try looking at them without blinking. Because they're judging your chemistry and your confidence. That's why they're challenging you. They want to see how you're going to put together your thoughts. Why don't you cheat? You could cheat by thinking of all the questions right up front, writing out masterful answers and practicing. We're going to go over a lot more of that next Tuesday in the intervention lecture. Now, networking, interacting with other folks to exchange information. Sure. I like number 2 here, part 2, creating this pool of contacts that I can leverage to my benefit to make my job search life easier. Traditional networking, we run down that list and it's like the worst chore list ever. Oh, it's done. I did it. I networked. Gosh, I bet you were very effective. We don't understand traditional networking. Maybe we're really not doing too much traditional networking these days because of pandemic. That's going to change fairly quickly. And hopefully we're doing virtual networking, which is incredibly important. But, I have to think about this here. The goal of networking is not really to sell yourself. Oh, a little bit. The goal of networking is to be the most interested person in the room, to be a sponge, to absorb information. If I'm in a room networking, oh my gosh, I have all sorts of industry people at all levels that possess a different body of language than I have in my brain, different level of knowledge that I have in my brain. And I need to absorb it all, pick their brains, figure out what's going on in other companies, figure out connections, figure out names, all sorts of things that could happen. But we usually get to the traditional networking and it's pretty over at that point. We're going to have, that's the usual customer expected. We're going to have to break through that cycle and think in a very, very different way, because we just can't get in the room and think it's all going to happen for us. That usually doesn't happen for us too much. That tends to be the rut, because we have this kind of old paradigm of, hi, I'm here to sell myself. And no one actually is listening. They're all going, oh, when is it my turn? When is it my turn? Of course, that leaves us in a pretty unhappy place that we have to get by. Simply change that equation of diminishing returns by changing the rules. The rules are, I don't really have to sell myself. A little bit. I just have to go collect information. Oh gosh, now what brought you here today? Oh, what do you do? Oh, that's so interesting. Oh, do you know so-and-so? Oh, let me introduce you. No, what is it you do? Oh, that's fantastic. How'd you get into that? 4, 5, 6, basically pretty innocuous questions, luring people up onto the soapbox. And then the moment they begin to speak, not another word comes out. Maybe some sounds. Not another words coming out until they run out of oxygen, because they're disclosing things to me that could be valuable. I need to absorb it. I need to let them run free. Yeah, this approach is much more unusual, unconventional, unexpected, but it's going to produce a very different outcome and these moments of clarity that connect all the dots for you. So let's begin to think about that. The real first question for LinkedIn is simple. It's like, who is it that I should network with? Who is it that I should connect with? Whom among all these people is the right connection to add? Let's get right to the answer. Everyone. There's no evaluation. I have real criteria. There's no evaluation. Almost none. You have to be a real, living human being on planet Earth. I don't care if you're in India, Russia, China. I don't care if you're in janitorial services. None of it matters, because it's never about you as the connection. It's about the 2 or 3 layers of network behind you that I own forever. That's what it's about. So don't prejudge and misjudge. You have no idea who someone's child is, or who their parent is, or who their sibling is, or next door neighbor is, or their best friend is. There is opportunity all around us, but we have to really get out of our own way. Make sure when you do begin to do in-person networking again, we're carrying those business cards, and really everywhere you are is a chance to network, even waiting in line at the movies, which I'm not quite ready to do yet, but hopefully soon. Sum up this first part. I think you need to link with as many people as possible. Always get the connection, as many as you can. Back to the idea that information is the new currency, and you need to collect it all in your favor. Let me show you two techniques. Then we're going to show you how to maximize your profiles as a selling brochure. These are recruiter techniques. I use them every day as a recruiter in my life. And really, this first one is quite shocking. This first one will help you build a list, statistically perfect, of 30 companies that are ready to hire you today if they have an opening. There's the great unknown. Do they have an opening? Do they not have an opening? This technique is what a recruiter will use. Recruiters work with lots of candidates, but most of the candidates that they work with are only the best of the best of the best. Or they talk to a lot, but the ones they actually go and do the work for, get out there and hit the pavement, pick up the phone and really do the work for, those are the superstars, the unicorns, the people that are so special. Well, as a recruiter, what we called them behind the scenes was a walking invoice. People so good, all I have to do is figure out which company name do I put on the top of this invoice, send it out. They're that good. That's the right type of person a recruiter markets. So when a recruiter has that individual that is so attractive, the very first thing they do is create this statistically perfect list. What they don't do, if they're any good, is they create this list and they don't bother to go look at those company websites. They don't bother to go look at the job boards. They simply pick up the phone, call 30 managers at 30 companies, and every single time, 2, 3, or 4, magic. Go, oh, I need a person just like this. Oh, you do? And we don't tell them about the homework, the magic trick, the behind the scenes that essentially positioned us to get struck by lightning. 2, 3, or 4 out of 30, by the way, is a very good return. Every one of them would like to hire you if they had the opening, but you magically just cut your time down, reach out to all 30, and the ones that have an opening are going to instantly react to you. Now, how do we do this? Well, we're going to go into LinkedIn and we're going to search for someone just like you in some way, shape, or form. Not every way, shape, or form, some way, shape, or form. So whatever that aspect is, I'm going to go in and search for those people. And then I'm going to begin to look for the people that made one job move forward after we were identical. By the way, historically, they're going to have one job back before we were identical. That's a 1 forward, 1 back. Now I collect all those people together. I should also mention I only use the free version of LinkedIn. So everything I'm teaching you today, you can do it on the free version. I'm on the free version. And now I collect all those people together and I begin to look at all their employers that aren't the current one or the last one where that was identical, who's the 1 back, 1 forward. And the first thing that would happen, well, let's take an example. Let's imagine you were a Coca-Cola quality manager. Now you're looking for a new job and you pull all these people that used to be a Coca-Cola quality manager, made one job move forward. You look at all their companies and heartbreak, 7-Up, Pepsi-Cola, RC Cola. John, I could have written that list myself. Yes. That part of the list you should have written yourself right off the top of your head. Absolutely. And then you're going to see all these other food and beverage companies. There's like 1 million of them. Every one of them statistically perfect to hire you. They have hired your duplicate. Go and introduce yourself to them. Even if you're scratching your head, there's something about your background that you like. Very, very important to put together statistically perfect lists to go after. Really changes your odds. Here's another technique, a 1, 2, 3 forward technique. Now, I had a gal call me up from Atlanta. She says, I think I need a career coach. I think I don't have a career. I'm like, ouch, that's a little harsh. Some of your stuff, let's take a look. And, she was 3 or 4 years out of school at that point. I had done a little of this, a little of that. Now she's managing a health club. By the way, nothing wrong with managing a health club. Doesn't want to do it. I don't know how to find a career. I'm like, oh, I have an idea for brainstorming. Yeah, both these techniques are brainstorming to cause thought, to cause problem solving. I said, well, I have an idea here. Why don't we do this 1, 2, 3 forward technique and discover what you could have done and maybe uncover a new pathway for you. This is about not reinventing the wheel. The wheel is a wonderful invention, but you don't have to bang your head against that concrete to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's been invented. So why don't we discover somebody else that has already invented the pathway you'd like and simply follow them down that road? Real example for this one, because it's more complex. So I'm going to find people now that have made 3 job moves forward since we're identical, so I can learn from them. Yeah, that is harder. It does take more searching and is more difficult. So let me pull this a little bit larger so you can see it center screen here for a second. So here we pulled all these people. Now, my client had gone to Clark Atlanta University. I said, well, gosh, you're just in the workforce. No. I 3 years I've been working out. Well, welcome. Really, you haven't built anything. You're just in the workforce. Let's go back to your education. I really see that right now as your major asset. What did people with the same asset do in this same time frame? So all these people you see right here went to Clark Atlanta University. All of them studied mass media. That's the value of being able to keyword search. And then we start looking through titles. Where these people are doesn't matter. We're just brainstorming. What do you like? What do you like? Oh, events. Oh, I'd love to work in events. Yeah. Oh, that sounds fantastic to me. Come on, screen a little small here. Oh, events at Warner Brothers. Oh my gosh, I'd love to do something like that. And then we continue to look down the list, trying to figure out, well, what do we want to do next? And suddenly we go, oh, I'd love to be a membership director. Oh, recruiter. I'd like to help people. So we'll come back to that one. Let's look up at Trish here. What's going on here? How did Trish become this membership director for this nonprofit, for this Chamber of Commerce? How'd she do it? What do you think the first role was? Membership associate. And the second role, membership manager. And voila, 3 steps in, she's membership director. Now, my client over here on the right, Tahita, didn't know what she was doing, didn't know that particular route, but knew that she was very, very interested. And so I said, well, your first mission then is let's go get you into a nonprofit or foundation. Lots of those around Atlanta. Well, what role am I looking for? Membership services? I don't know what that is. Well, I don't either, but apparently they're going to love your background. Let's go sell you. And she finds herself at member services at the Georgia Pharmacy Association. Really the first step in her 3-step career goal. Now, this one I have been telling for a while, so I have to update it. She's moved up to Director of Membership Services and Database, and finally up to Director of Membership Operations. The entire 3-step career path down a road she'd never heard of before our conversation. Perception is reality. You're going to have to manage the idea of this product of you, but you're going to have to come up with an idea. How do you want them to think about your product? How do you want them to feel about this product? Why should they buy this product that is you? And then we're going to have to make those changes that we know are going to change everything to help us step out of line so we get a better offer, a better job, and better responsibility. Now, here's a few shares just to leverage that idea of small changes change perception. Here I'm doing a group event at one of the places I was at. Then I'm running out to do one of my lectures, and I shared this. By the way, let's pause and look at the numbers here. Those aren't very special. 486 people, blah, blah, blah. Definitely not Kardashian numbers. Maybe I can come a little bit larger here. Nor is it the Kardashian bank account. But let's be clear. 486 views means 486 clicks, actually. If 486 people clicked on this, thousands of people saw it. I read tons of stuff that is in my feed that I certainly never click on. That's how advertising works. This is a benchmark for you. Of course, then a couple of years back, I'm doing an online boot camp that's about to go online permanently. And someone snapped a picture in the middle of that, so I shared that. Then I'm up at WHCR, Voice of Harlem Radio. What a great place and great show that is. So I went up there for 2 hours of drive time, 6 to 8 in the morning. I think I've done it 4 or 5 times now. Now, I didn't make it into the shot, but my coffee did. Very, very fun. Change reality simply by changing perception. And it's about sharing this content. So I hope you tune in to Thursday's lecture this week. That's a noon lecture on Thursday. And that's all about how you put together this type of marketing campaign you're seeing now that shifts perception about you. That's in addition to what I'm teaching you today for your LinkedIn profile itself. So begin to think about how all these shares begin to change and guide everybody as to how they need to think about you. Now, in terms of building out really the right profile, the very best sales brochure for ourselves that positions and sells our value, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. If you don't put enough preparation into it, you're not really going to get what you'd like. Now, as you begin to think about branding your career, we're going to let you see a few different things float across screen here. We also need to talk about something upsetting, and that's Twitter. If you'd like to be employed, I'm a big believer you're going to need to be on Twitter. I don't mean that 157 tweets over the weekend type thing. I simply mean that a lot of companies have stopped posting jobs. They've stopped posting jobs because when they post jobs, they get 1,000 to 2,000 resumes, and 95% of those resumes are not right for this job. And they realized they can go to Twitter once they've learned to think like a detective. And I can go to Twitter and search 4, 5, or 6 words and find the best of the best. Oh, not the capable and qualified. Ooh, time a dozen. The exceptional, best of the best. By the way, that's a lot easier than you think. All you have to do is give yourself permission to think. The best of the best are a different type. We all would like to think we're the best of the best, but what would the best of the best, if you could look over their shoulder, what would they be reading, doing, sharing, attending? It's a very short list. You are certainly not the best of the best if you've never shared a best practices technical white paper, which you can simply Google best practices technical white paper. It'll come right up. You'll get the whole concept. You should not need to write these things. There's a million of them out there. Someone already wrote how to do your job the best way. Just go pick any one of them. Good, bad, or ugly doesn't really matter, because you can give your 4, 5, 6 words of opinion with it. What a great take on best practices for exactly what I do with a link. Not sure I agree with best practices for exactly what I do with the link. Couldn't disagree more with best practices for exactly what I do with the link. I can take any position I'd like. Without your opinion, it does not stick to you. You want that content to freely flow across your LinkedIn and out to Twitter, which is simply a toggle choice. For all the rest of our story, as we move it over to LinkedIn, hopefully if we've refined down to the correct resume, if not, watch the resume renovation lecture. Once you get to the right resume, that becomes the backbone, the skeletal system. The rest of the content all has to go through one simple question, which you've already heard, which is, why is it going to be the best business decision that they make today if they hire me? That's how you decide what goes on LinkedIn and what does not go on LinkedIn. And primarily, you've probably already guessed this part, the story has to be focused in these areas. It's really about somehow affecting performance, somehow changing, adding value to the employer. It's not about you, even though it is, it's about them. Let's get over to LinkedIn and let's show you how to really maximize these things. First place to start is not really on the profile itself, but how you look when you go look at other people. Because eventually you're going to build out this wonderful profile, and then you need to go and market yourself to other people by beginning to look at them, beginning to ask to connect with them, beginning to email them directly and booking a time to see them. So if you do look at other people, maybe at the first company you'd like to work with, ABC Company, now, in my view, you need to go look at 25 people, maybe 30, behind the firewall of the company. Excuse me. So I'm going to either see or imagine the job that I'm after, and then I look up the food chain. We're going to show you how to reverse search and do this coming up here. Up the food chain. Don't be shy. Up. Down, all the way down to admin level for very strategic reasoning. Don't get hung up in your head. Left and right into a surrounding department or two. And then you're going to show up just like these people are showing up, behind the firewall of the company, looking at them so nicely. Here's my nice headline. And maybe you're these 2 poor souls at the bottom. I don't even know why we'd even look there. There is no purpose to privacy on LinkedIn. This is your cultivated, curated garden of your story. You're controlling every word. Why would that ever be private? It's a competition world today. That has to be public. Jonathan here, founder and owner. Whew. Are you a founder and owner? My gosh, I sure hope that's not on your resume and certainly not on the LinkedIn side. We do not hire founders and owners. You know why? Because they don't listen to us. They have their own ideas. I can't manage them. I can't tell them what to do. So let's get out of our own way. And if you have founder or owner in your background, that's really about our own ego. Push it aside. Change it to principal. Has exact same meaning with none of the negative baggage. That's a person I can manage. That's a person I can give a big project to. That's a person I can direct. That's even a person I can partner with because their responsibility level is so high, and yet they understand I'm still in charge. Deborah here. Great energy, by the way. Suddenly I'm getting it. Jonathan, I can tell you it does not work in the fashion or glam industry. So the glam shot really doesn't work. This is your product shot. Deborah here, I'm getting good energy. I can imagine working on tough projects in stressful times. Textiles, lighting, fashion, interiors. My gosh, I have a direction. Fantastic. Now, I wonder what Deborah does in textiles, lighting, fashion, interiors. Answering the phone, designing the fabric, talking with customers. I don't really know. So, and I don't get the level of the delivery either. So it's a missed opportunity here. Of course, Brad here, corporate affairs and communications, global reputation management, government relations, crisis comms. Oh, look, I can contact Brad. Looks the part. That's the product shot. By the way, full disclosure, Brad's one of my clients. Profiles are the world at your window. If you were in retail, which would be pretty tough right now for all sorts of reasons, but also because of Amazon, your job is to get people in the store. What are you going to put in the window to get people in the store? What are you going to put in your profile to get people into your story? So, how are you interesting? What makes you tick? How did you deliver value? That's part of it as well. First impressions, very important. So we have to make sure we're having the right connection. I'm a big believer in finding a way to use the banner. You do not have to be in the banner. I'm in the banner because I'm a public speaker. I can get these shots fairly easily. It works cohesively and balances with my profile shot. Just understand the banner is not to distract away from you. The banner is to add focus to you. Of course, in that shot, they see my profile shot. They also see my headline, which is a couple hundred at maximum little headline of how I encapsulate value. Really, a lot of people do the lowest common denominator, least value item here. They put their current or last employer in title. That's the most interesting thing about you? That's the most valuable thing about you? I doubt it. So what do I use this in this space? Author and career coach, resume, LinkedIn, and career branding guru, featured speaker at NYPL, Department of Labor, CUNY, and many others. Quoted in the Wall Street Journal, on and on and on. Oh, look, I can contact that guy. Would you like to be contacted? Put your email address in the headline. One of the very few places that LinkedIn does not promptly hide it from 99% of the people, because that's their business model. So again, think of a banner image. Think of something that it can be literal like this. It could be something that is tangentially, visually connected, could be subliminally connected, lots of things to think about. Make sure profile image, in the profile image, let's just understand that we have to get the best shot. The best shot is one with energy, enthusiasm, drive, passion. Above all other things is presence. And every single bit of what I just named is intangible. Can't tell you what it is, but we can tell you when we see it. Think about how you're going to change yours. Also understand building the right profile is a trial and error piece. So don't be afraid to go into the different modules, try different text. Let's go back and see what it looks like, and then go back to the drawing board. Same thing with the banner, and really get the right shot there. Now, as you go down the profile, you get to my summary section or the about section. Now, this is 2,000 characters of space. The way I use it, it's 3 screens long. Now, if you've watched my resume lecture, you know I'm not a big fan of the objective statement, the core competencies at the top, the everything I've accomplished since kindergarten at the top of the resume. All that goes away, and we have a positioning title at the top of the resume to position our value, how to think of us. Well, really, it's the same concept here, except I'm not handcuffed to 4, 5, or 6 words, or even 2 or 3 lines of 4, 5, 6 words. Here I have 2,000 characters of space to accomplish the same goal. How do I tell them why I'm valuable before I let them look at my background and evaluate me for themselves? White space, incredibly important. Also, I hope you've already absorbed that other than a direct quote, which this starts with at the top, there is no sentence structure anywhere on this profile. If there's sentence structure on the profile, we're in a world where people don't read. You're going to have to transform how we present that. So I start with my own little quote, which I often do for some of my clients. They'll say something magical during our interview, and I'm like, oh, I heard it. I write it down, and suddenly right up top with a nice quote, and they're like, oh, stunning. Okay, so think of a nice quote. I wrote this quote, I put it in quotes, I put my name after it, and doesn't it look nice? Also, true believer in what it says. Then, of course, I go down my media hits to build up credibility. Now, I could have put that in much more succinctly, but then it would have taken an extra second, 2 or 3 to look at it, absorb it, digest it, conclude. There is no second 2 or 3. They have to just see it in the brain, see it in the brain. Go down the profile a little further in the About section, suddenly featured speaker at New York Public Library and the Department of Labor, then followed by 8 more organizations where I do the exact same thing. But I can't put that in as a whole list because then it becomes a block of text. I have to break it up so it's digestible in the brain. I can't possibly let them miss NYC Service or Rainbow Push Wall Street Project or Goldman Sachs or certainly Harvard Business School Club of New York City. I cannot let them miss any of that. There's still more room left in the About section, the way I utilize it. And I put in several of my lecture topics, which is just a clever way to get more keywords in there. Then I violate my own rules. Subtitle of my book is Changing the Rules. I violate my own rules and put a paragraph in out of my book. I'm going to roll the dice on this little paragraph. But, it's a small, inviting paragraph. It encapsulates. If I've lost them by now, I've lost them. I'm going to roll the dice. Of course, then I mentioned my full services, resume renovation, and LinkedIn profile creation, all of that. Then I begin to attach visual elements. Your summary section, individual jobs, they can all take visual elements. So I hope we're thinking about those things. Now, if we're actively doing anything on LinkedIn, this white box exists on your profile. If you're not doing, sharing, talking, clicking, doing any of that stuff, this white box does not exist. You can't turn it on without, it just comes on automatically the moment you begin to share and interact. This is how you begin to let them look over your shoulder and influence them. What are you reading, doing, sharing, attending? What is drawing attention? As you go down the profile, and you can spend lots of time on my profile yourself, absorb what you have there, even borrow some of the structure and change the content to yours. That's a pretty easy way to do it. Here's the self-recruiter listing. Very first, this is kind of the resume portion. All right, but we don't see sentence structure. Your first goal is to divide up your content so it's absorbable. You can see how I began to divide out the content. What do I want to convey? First major pitch, there's my book, and then a featured speaker backing up the fact that I'm credible. All that right there. And then a little more detail as you go down, but you realize still no sentence structure. So clearly communicates everything. And when you get this stage done, then you go back through, and after the grouping and everything for simplification, I go back through and add a little tiny bit of all caps. The little tiny bit of all caps helps the structure, helps them see, helps them focus. Don't use any all caps, probably not likely to read very much at all. Use too many all caps, certainly not likely to read very much at all. Here's a view of more 2-line bullets, more traditional length bullets, to kind of see how that might work in there. And then I skip a few spaces, and right in the self-recruiter listing, I add a keyword block. Let's be upfront here. Most individuals do not need a keyword block. If you need one, this is how you do it. Let me get a drink. Now, while I've been sitting here, you might have been reading this, and you might have seen Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins. Never quite know how they're going to search him. George Johnson, 5 O'Clock Club, 92nd Street Y. All these things I have absolutely nothing to do with. Why are they here? Because I think like a detective. Those are all things that you could search to find a person like John, but that's not my background. You're not going to find John unless I stick it into a keyword block. Have you connected those dots yet? Are there certain companies that you need to always come up next to? Are there certain people in the industry you need to always come up next to? I think you know how to do that part now. As you set up your individual jobs, make sure you understand this is trial and error. When I'm building out a client's profile, it can be 3 or 4 hours of building it out. And that's when I've already done the work in advance in a text document to begin to do what I'm describing here. So understand you have to spend some significant time to make your profile sing. Individual jobs, of course, I begin to add those things, visual elements to those individual jobs, whatever seems appropriate there, showcasing just a little bit so they get a different sense. They can really imagine me in my career if they'd like to hire me, and they need to imagine you in your career if they'd like to hire you. A couple techniques to show you a little bit further down the profile. Here I am VP over the 100 office system, And look at this, national recruiting firm, we did manufacturing, engineering, supply chain, logistics, chemical, energy, blah, 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 on and on and on. Just a clever way to get more keywords in there. Now think of how I told that story. If you were in any one of these industries and you needed someone to help you create a much better resume and a much more effective LinkedIn profile, guess who would come right up in the search results, simply by how I told the story. A little earlier in the career, associated clients. Now that could get you in trouble. Careful of those non-disclosure agreements, careful of the trade secret agreements. I had the right to share every single one of the software companies I worked with. I shared every single software company I worked with. Think about the storytelling technique. If you work for one of those companies and need someone to help you create a much better resume or a much more effective LinkedIn profile, guess who comes right up? Now look what's just below this. At the start of the profile, up by my picture and up by the headline, you probably saw that 500 plus, 500 plus. Mover, shaker, finger on the pulse. There's 5 candidates on the table. They're all dazzling. I look them all up on LinkedIn, and 4 of them are all 500 plus, and 1 is 170. 170. Can't possibly know or have access to the solutions that the 500 plus people. Well, you must have your finger on the pulse. You must know everything. Or they're connected to 500 random people they don't even know. But it's a perception war, and that part's over. So you need to connect with 501 people or more. This line is how you do it. You take each one of these things, invite me, all invites accepted, open networker, and lion. Just grab them, put them in quotes, stick them up in the search, and suddenly you're going to get people that have invite me in the profile. Run down every single tab of the results, invite every single person. No thought, just invite them all. Do it again with all invites accepted. Do it again with open networker. Do it again with lion. And if you do all of that today, even if you're at 0 today, by Friday, worst case Monday, you'll be at 501 connections. You'll be labeled 500 plus, and you'll be seen as a mover, shaker, finger on the pulse. Publications module, I use that. I have my book in there. I have a few different articles in there. Another article from Essence Magazine. Okay, you may not have any of those things, but can you write 3, 4, 5 articles? No one wants a long article because no one will read. Page and a half. That's it today. You got to be very succinct. Page and a half. Somehow, if you wrote 3, 4, 5 articles that somehow surrounded what you do or deliver professionally, kind of with this tone. If I came to you and said, hey, could you talk to my kid? They'd kind of like to come down the same track as you. Could you give them some pearls of wisdom, some advice? Oh, yeah, that's the right wise mentoring tone. You could do that. That's very, very similar to controlling every single word of the interview in advance. That's the opportunity it is. Lure them into reading that stuff. That's recruiting material that goes right into the blog system on LinkedIn. This is a long form post, by the way. Right into the blog system for LinkedIn that gets dropped right in front of people that want that information. And suddenly that's a recruiting tool to find you. So publications module, even if you don't have separate published out in the world, you can put your own blog in there. And of course, share that content right on LinkedIn. Now, if you volunteer, I hope you understand that the moment we heard that word, we were dismissive. Oh, it's not real. It's not real. By the way, I'm volunteering here today. Oh, there's no ka-ching here. There's nothing here for John financially. This is volunteer work. Same as when I'm at the library, the same as when I'm at the Department of Labor or most of the other places that I speak at. All right, so for myself nor my clients, I don't use the volunteer module. Why doesn't it just say, don't look here? We're so dismissive. What I use is the organization module. Has all of the same benefit, none of the dismissive baggage. Paid or unpaid, it all goes here. This is also where you put good works. Now you're going to see a lot of dates in here, and that may scare you a little bit. This field does not require dates. I have dates in here for time relevance of skill as a speaker. But good works don't expire. I can just leave whatever needs to be out. I can just leave it out. I want you to begin to think a little differently in your storytelling. Begin to tell an effective story that draws people to you, convinces them that you are the very best one. What you're looking at here is the keyword skills endorsement module, or you were there momentarily. Let's see if we can get back there. Must be on auto switch. Sorry about that. The keyword skill endorsement module, this is 50 words or phrases about you. You know how many you have to put in? 50. You have to fill in all 50 spots. I know how difficult that is. I do it for my clients all the time. I pull my hair out. I'm so good at it. I'm like, how do I get 50 ways to talk about you? By the way, you cannot be an expert at 50 things. That's not the point of this module. These are things that you have touched. These are things that you have exposure to. Behind the scenes, they can dial up a recipe list. Oh, I need someone that's done this, 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 and this. And boom, you come up in those search results if you get the right keywords in here. So this is very, very important. Let's get as many in there as possible. And then let's work on getting our votes up. By the way, you have to get 100 votes to get labeled 99 plus on those skills. Boy, that does take some time. Whatever content you put in, LinkedIn is going to group it a second time at the bottom of the resume in a nice separate way. Make sure you get your honors and awards, publications, anything else that you need to get in here to say, I'm a little different. I bring something else to the table. Tell the story. This is your chance. Don't wait. Of course, we can expand that content. You can put as much content in there as you'd like. LinkedIn will truncate it and make it small so it's digestible. Anybody that has interest expands it, and it's all there. And every single bit is keyword searchable. Recommendations, perfect world. I'd like to have 4, 5, or 6 written recommendations. I think I have, 52, 55, whatever it may be that's up there. Not one edit. Now, you're going to know that the moment you start reading some of these because your head will want to explode because you're going to see typos all over the place, grammar all over the place. Oh my gosh, didn't John see this? Of course I did. That's why they work. Let people speak in their own language. The worst thing you can do is say, can you write about these 3 things? You know what that is? That's stabbing yourself in the foot 3 times. Stab, stab, stab. Yes, your friend is going to write about those 3 things. And they're going to say something dull and uninspired. And they're never going to say the 5 magical things they were going to say because it will no longer occur to them. Don't give people direction. Write as little as you'd like to say, as much as you'd like to say. Here comes the word. Whatever you genuinely feel. There it is. Genuinely feel. Sure, it'll be fine. And I am sure it'll be fine because it can never go live unless you approve it. Roll the dice. People will surprise you. Let's see what they say about you. Groups. You need to join as many groups as possible. All the members of every single group that you join are suddenly in this searchable pool. That's an incredibly valuable thing. You don't even have to be in the 3-level network. You just have to go join all the right groups. There's a self-recruiter group, by the way, too. Follow some influencers. Look at that. I'm following Tony Robbins, mostly so I can get behind him on stage, give him a little push, make room for those trailing behind a little bit. Get to the 500 plus. Now, this part we really showed you, but we'll take you through a little bit of screenshot here. And then final few moments here of today's session, we're going to show you how you reverse search and find anyone on LinkedIn. So how we get to the 500 plus is real simple. We're going to put the invite me right up there. You get people that have that right in their profile, invite them all, or all invites accepted, as you see here, or open networker, it's right there, or lion. Lion doesn't really need the quotes, single word, but you'll get a few that don't belong. I work at Food Lion. I'm in the Lion team at the real estate company. A few that don't belong. Most of them are very high volume networkers. Wherever you are in your process, I hope that you take your first step or your next step and understand this is a continual improvement process to make sure your profile becomes this dynamic selling brochure that really is going to elevate your value. Now, on Thursday, we're going to take you through a different angle of LinkedIn, and that is really once you've built out the right profile, how do I do the marketing campaign? Last part for today, how do I reach any decision maker? Unified search box at the top of the page, any page, they're all identical, doesn't matter. In this case, I'm searching Informatica, big database middleware company. Used to be one of my cash cows as a recruiter. As long as I'm here, I also need to think about other companies. So I might go, no, show me the companies. Where is it? Oh, it's hidden. There it is. Show me the companies. What do we have? 34,000 companies under the word Informatica. What's going on here? Well, yeah, the ones on screen all say Informatica, but further on down the list, I can tell you what's going on here. Used to be my field. These are all system integrators. They either resell or install Informatica software. If I am statistically right for working at Informatica, very likely statistically right to work at a number of these other companies. This is an alternate method to put together those statistically perfect lists of companies to call. Think about that. But I really have to find people. So then I go back over, no, show me the people. What do I get? 2.5 million cold and in the ground before I get through that. I'm gonna have to think, now, maybe just show me the ones in the US. I don't need them worldwide. And show me the ones currently working for Informatica, even on the free version. So let's think about that. Really currently working for Informatica, really US. What do I get? 1,615 results. I'm making progress. I can't look at 1,600 people either. Okay, so what am I going to do here? I think, maybe it's a VP. Well, look at that. Just a simple VP. VP, really US, really Informatica. 75 VPs. A lot of chiefs. Director. Maybe it's a director. Maybe this is brainstorming, problem solving. Director. I think it's director, really US, really Informatica. 228 directors. I'm going the wrong way. No, I've got it. Because it's brainstorming and problem solving. It's a sales director that I'm after. And not just US. How about right within Greater New York City, even on the free version? Boom. 3. Wow. 3 people suddenly. Remember, I'm looking for 3 to 5 decision makers. The closer I get to 5, the better my odds. Okay, but I've got these 3. Maybe there's a sales VP, not just a sales manager. Maybe there's a sales VP. Maybe not just a sales director. What do I get? Oh, 2 more. Now I'm up to 5. Fantastic. Don't be shy. Now, I'd like to connect with these folks, but sometimes I get frustrated with this darn InMail. Hope you know what InMail is, which is spam. Literal definition of spam. It's paid email. You may not think it's spam, but any of your high volume targets, HR, decision maker, recruiters, I mean, my inbox is just jam packed with well over 1,000 unopened messages of just nonstop spam. I'm just spammed endlessly. So I'd like to connect with Nick, but they're still frustrating me even on his profile. Just click the ... and they've just hidden the connect button over here behind the bush. Although I'll never find it over here. You can't stop you from connecting. It's their business model. This is the message you write one time ever. Copy and paste forevermore. Oh, I like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how we like to say that. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Again, take your first step or that very next step, and let's change our future. Building your professional network with LinkedIn, how to use it for your job search. Lots of other content that will help you both on my Self-Recruiter website and over on the LinkedIn itself. Don't forget, there's another version of this same lecture, and they're different every time I do it because I talk about different things depending on what the day is like. That will help you. That's right on the homepage, halfway down the page. Make sure to take a look at that and see how that's going to help you. Don't forget also to make sure to begin to use a signature block on your emails, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth on Thursday as we talk about using this whole mechanism of LinkedIn as a marketing tool. Hope you can join me. Thank you for joining in today, and we'll see you Thursday at noon. If you do need help reinventing your value across the resume, across your LinkedIn profile, elevating how you present yourself verbally in the outreach process, don't hesitate to reach out. All my packages are on my website right under the services tab. And if you need to chat before you know which one is really the right one for you, don't hesitate just to reach out and by email, and we'll set up a time to talk. Thank you guys for joining in. Take care.